So right away, Nick Jonas turned around. So right away, then I'm on the show. So if somebody turns around, then you're on.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. He turned around and, like, much more attractive in person, I gotta say.
Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 140 of the Camano Voice. Today I speak with a former contestant of The Voice. Please welcome Savanna Woods. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview local business owners, comedians, singers, and more. I dive into their backstory to find out how they got where they are, what are some of the tips for you to do the same, and find out where they are going. Tune in every week as I interview more of the people you see every day. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. How's your guys' week going? Just got through our crazy Mother's Day tour weekend. We have an encore weekend coming up as well. And actually, I always forget these release like the week after I'm recording this piece. So I guess last week we got through the crazy Mother's Day. So anyways, something about time travel and all that stuff. Anyways, so today I interview Savanna Woods. And you might recognize that name. She was on the season 20 of The Voice. She was a contestant on that and worked with Kelly Clarkson on her time on the show. But she's local from this area. She grew up in Stanwood. Her and her sisters actually did some singing together, and then eventually she went more solo, and then has continued to build her music career since then. So we get into kind of all of that, like how she got started in music, what her and her sisters did, where they performed, and then how her career has kind of continued on past The Voice. And we also get kind of a backstage view at some of these reality TV shows and how they really work. I know everyone knows they're not real, but you just get a little bit more behind the curtains there. So I thought that was fascinating. And so she just released a new EP, which is available on her website, which is linked in the show notes, but it's savannahwoodsmusic.com. Savanna with no H. I kept throwing an H in there, so no H. So be sure to check that out. And the best way to support her is, apart from just buying her EP, is she actually has a Patreon where she does weekly, I believe it's weekly, shows just for the Patreons, and it can be as low as I actually haven't looked at her tiers, but usually they're pretty low tiers, so you can support her in whatever way possible, and that's just patreon.com/Savanna Woods, again no H. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Savanna Woods. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with a singer on The Voice, the season 20. Welcome to the podcast, Savanna Woods.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so before we get started, tell us a little bit about Savanna.
Ooh, Savanna. She grew up in Stanwood. Been a local my whole life. Started traveling a lot after I got out of school. We started I've always been a singer, so a lot of people in the community know me and my family from growing up in school. I got a lot of sisters, but I grew up in the Stanwood School District with three of them, Paige and Ireland, and we're all 3 years apart, so we did a lot of music all growing up, so, but I didn't go full-time into music till I was probably like 20 or so that's Savanna. Music, family, local, travel.
Nice.
That's Savanna.
Very cool. So what was it like for you growing up in Stanwood then?
Well, it was pretty cool. I mean, it's a small town, so keeps you out of, it doesn't keep you out of trouble, really. I guess actually a small town kind of puts you in more trouble. It was a good time. A lot of cool people around. I liked the agricultural influence. I did a lot of agriculture stuff growing up.
Okay.
Loved nature. Did a lot of being in Stanwood. It allows for a lot more of that stuff. Like I never took like any of the big sciences like physics, biology, chemistry.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot. I'm just kidding. But I did, instead of like horticulture, floral design, agriculture, I actually was in FFA like all my days, and I went to nationals and state even for singing.
Okay.
Future Farmers of America had a singing portion, which was interesting.
I did not know that.
Most people don't, and so that was kind of cool. I raised sheep, and I was in gun club.
Nice.
And all this stuff alongside of competing in the singing portion, which is really cool.
There we go.
Yeah, so Stanwood was really cool for that aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you hit, all the important aspects of Stanwood, the farming community side, the gun side, and the singing side.
Yeah, pretty much.
Very cool. So you said you got started with singing very young. Was that is that a family cultural thing? Like, was your family really big into singing?
Yeah, so I was basically born into singing. My dad's a singer, musician. His dad was in bands, and so it kind of was a family thing. I mean, no one has taken it as far as I've taken it.
Yeah.
But it's just, I was sort of born into it. So I've been singing since I could talk or make noises. And grew up with two of my sisters. We all grew up singing together with my dad. We'd sing it probably at a young age. Where we kind of started off performing together would be like church. We go to a Unity church in Everett. Kind of grew up there, and yeah, just born into it. Started writing music when I was like 3 or 4.
Okay.
I've just been doing it my whole life, really. So
Yeah.
dad was the influence as far as singing, and plays the piano and writes music, and so that would probably be the influence.
Yeah.
He got us started young, which I'm very grateful for, because now I've had that much more experience under my belt.
Yeah. Very cool. So then, as you were kind of doing this, then, were you focused on certain instruments or just really the singing portion?
At a young age,
Yeah.
would just be mostly singing, but I started taking piano lessons a little bit when I was young, but that didn't last terribly long. I learned enough, though, to build off of it, and so then later in life, I've taught kids piano and, like, beginner piano, and I know enough to, like I can play, but I started learning guitar because it's a lot harder to bring a piano around with you. Like, if I want to go gig somewhere, it's just a pain in the butt to find a piano or get a keyboard, whereas a guitar, that's super mobile.
Yeah.
So I did learn piano a bit as a kid, and yeah, I know enough to play, but more guitar. But it was mostly vocals my whole life. Until kind of high school, I was like, I really need to get an instrument going if I want to be performing and not rely on other people to back me up. So that's when I took in the guitar.
Okay. Nice. So then, with you said you were singing with your sisters. When did you guys start performing as like a little group?
Well, I mean, as children, we grew up singing together. My dad would have us be kind of his like backup singers for different songs and stuff. And then we kind of did our own thing. And then I started a band called Waking Maya when I was, 20, so like 7 years ago, or maybe before that, probably 7, 8 years ago. So that's when I started gigging kind of more full time. And then my sisters joined in after like 5 years or so. They joined in on that group as just kind of like background singers and instrumentalists. And then we started doing some more stuff on our own for a little while. And we kind of rebranded as another group called the Wood Sisters. Pretty self-explanatory name. And then I did we performed for like maybe a couple of years, and I did a little Europe tour. Did a little Europe tour for us, and that was really great. But then we kind of are doing our own things at the moment, with music super evolutionary and kind of evolves with you as a person. Like, I have a lot of different projects going on, and so they're kind of doing their own project things right now. And but we still sing together sometimes, not as regularly as we did at that one time, but things ebb and flow.
Yeah. What was that like? How did you get set up on a Europe tour?
So, I mean, as you may know, as a business owner, you kind of are in charge of a lot of things that people wouldn't even realize kind of behind the scenes. Like, people think, like, as a musician, I'm just performing all the time, and that's my job. And it's like, that is a very minimal part of the job.
Right.
So I do everything from, like, booking, managing, promoting, media, blah, blah, blah. So with, like, a Europe tour, I kind of just called it like this patchwork Europe tour. You just kind of figure out, like with music, there aren't really like rules on how to make this a career. So you just figure it out. And so I found these different websites. There's a, one website I used a lot was called like sofa concerts. And so people would actually, they'd put venues, or if they had a small venue, or if they wanted to open their home as a music venue, they would put it on the map and put it on there. And so I went on and kind of put together a little conglomeration of all these different venues that we could perform at, and then I would hit up, because I've been traveling to Europe Europe's my second home. I love it. Since I was like 21 or so, I've been to like 27 European countries. It's just like, I love it. So I've made a lot of connections that way. So then I just started basically hitting up all my friends and connections that I had made, hitting up the Sofa Concerts website. There's a couple other websites I would reference. And basically, it's the same way that you book gigs anywhere else. There's no rules. You just got to go for it, send out messages, make connections. It really comes down to the personal connections. So a lot of the gigs that came out of it, I had, people I knew someone, knew a venue. And anyway, it ended up, we had shows in Scotland and Spain and England and Italy, in Germany, so we were able to kind of travel and bebop around, and it wasn't like I don't really desire the kind of tour where you're playing every single night and just like go, because my passion is also traveling. Like, I want to travel and play music like intermittently. So we'd kind of go to these different places, travel, maybe play a show, maybe do a little busking, and so it's kind of a good meeting point between playing music and traveling.
Nice. Very cool. And how old were you guys when you did this?
This was probably, maybe I was like 25, I would say. I'd say it was like, it was pre-pandemic. It might have been 2018. So what year are we in now? 2020. So that was like, oh my gosh, was that 4 years ago?
Feels
Time
like
is
forever
flying.
now.
So I was, I was probably like 23. Sister was maybe 21 and 25 or something. We were all,
Very
young
cool.
20s.
Awesome. Very cool. So, so then you did this tour, and then when you came back, then what was kind of the next step? Did you decide at that point that you guys were kind of going to do your own things, or what kind of happened?
Yeah, so the tour, a lot of times I like to go to Europe spring or fall. A very favorite time would be fall, because it's like right after a busy summer, and then tourist season's going down. So by the time we got back, that's kind of the reset point anyways. Like late fall, winter is always the time where you kind of reset, recollect, and like, what do I want to do for the next year? Because like I said, with music and art careers, it's very evolving. It's like whatever you're feeling, basically. So we came back from tour, and season's changing, and it kind of was just our time to each reflect and go back and like, what do we want to do the next season? And because the summer's really the big music time. So we came back from tour and just all started to kind of do our own thing. They also had other things going. This is like my full time. I don't have like other career, like takes up all my time. So I just kind of kept going full. I'm kind of a full speed ahead type of person. So I just came back and just kind of kept going with it. I kept going with Waking Maya, but then when did that? I guess my Waking Maya days kind of stopped when I started. The pandemic, I guess, kind of happened shortly after that, and then that's when I went on to The Voice. So things just started shifting and evolving pretty quickly after that, I think. I'm like trying to remember all these timelines. You're triggering all these memories.
Well, and it's the last 2 years has felt like 30. So like
30 and also 30 seconds. It's super crazy. This whole like. The pandemic was a time warp, it feels like.
It does.
It's really confusing to think about timeline.
So then, so you kind of started building your music career to some degree of just like really trying to focus in on how to get your music out there and stuff. How did The Voice kind of come about then?
Well, it's interesting because when I was 18, so like a decade ago, I actually tried out for The Voice. But at that point, like growing up, I've just always like been a naturally good singer and like did the musicals in high school and stuff, but didn't like know myself as an artist really. So I tried out just on the like, well, I can kind of sing, and so I'm gonna try it. So I tried out, and I actually didn't even make it past the first round. So like what you see on TV is that's like the 50th round.
Okay.
So there's like a very preliminary audition, and I didn't even make it past that. And I remember just that was kind of like, well, it was like the trigger of realizing I don't even know myself as an artist, and I was kind of relying on just a natural talent. So then after that, when I started going into music more in depth and full time, I wasn't gonna do The Voice again because I saw kind of the audition process, and when you're doing it in person auditions, it's kind of like herding cattle to get these thousands of people in one day auditioned, you know, in front of this panel, and like everybody sings for like 5 seconds, and then they're like, no, yes. It was just kind of a crap show.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to do this again. But then fast forward 10 years later, the pandemic happened. I was not gigging. All my gigs were canceled, and like, this is my job. So I turned my career into like an online career of like online music concerts and stuff. And then I get an email from The Voice, like, do you want to try out? They're virtual auditions.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I could be interested in that, because I just had to sit on my bed and play a song for 30 seconds to my phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do that. No lines, no people. Like, okay, that's easy. And so I did that, and then it put me to the next round, which is, it's basically, there's like, I don't know, there's maybe like 10 rounds before you even get to go to LA. But I made the videos, and then they're like, okay, thanks, next round. And then finally it was like, okay, after all these interviews I did and stuff, they're like, okay, we want you to come to LA. And I remember just being so stoked, because this is like during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I've been locked up in my little tiny house. I live in like 200 square feet, smaller than this room, and just performing online. And I was just like so happy, because I got to go to LA and actually do this. We didn't have an audience or anything, but just the fact that I got to get out and do this, because the season prior to mine was actually a virtual season, which is very not, that doesn't excite me as much. You're like at home with a camera. Like, I wanted to go and play on that stage. I wanted to be around these people in this environment. So yeah, step by step, I finally got to go to LA. I don't even remember what your question was. I just start talking.
No, you're good. Real quick, I wanted to jump in and say, you said that they reached out to you. Was that because you had previously been a contestant, or did they reach out to you because they had seen some other stuff that you did?
That's a good question. They do both things. The reason I got the email was because I had signed up. When you go to audition, you sign up for an artist profile on their website. So whenever they do auditions in your city or whatever, you'll get just an email saying that. And then so since they were virtual, I got an email from them. It was nothing personal, but a lot of people I did audition with were found from them, because they have scouts out there looking at stuff online, and they'll see a video and email someone. But yeah, no, mine was just because I had already auditioned prior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So what was that like then? So you finally get the go-ahead, and they say, we want you to come to LA. What was that like from there?
Well, first was some happy tears. It was really, really nice, because it's like I did it because of the thought of, it's like, I don't want to win the competition, but I knew it would kind of bump my career up to the next level, because it's hard with music to get I needed to get to the next level. Yeah. And I've been working really hard for a really long time, and it's been awesome. But when I got the, like, you're coming to LA, it was like, oh my God. Yes. Because I knew it'd just be that nice boost. So I had, what happened? I guess I had some time to prepare, but then it just, a lot of logistics, what I needed to bring, what I needed to do, Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, you meet the 80 contestants, and like, it was just a lot of logistics. There's a lot of behind the scenes. They're like fielding we had to go through like therapy sessions, like making sure everybody can handle it mentally. Like, it was just a lot of things to do beforehand. Yeah. But then maybe a few months later, flew down to LA, stayed. We all lived in kind of a hotel together near Universal Studios, and you're there for like a whole month preparing for each televised thing. So like the blind audition that you saw which is like 10 seconds long, I was there for a whole month just to prepare for that one like 10-second stage thing.
Okay. And at that point, do you know, like, is it still, like, the fact you got called there just means you get to go on stage and see if anyone turns around, right?
Not even that, really. So
Okay.
there's a lot of people who were there who didn't even get to audition.
Oh, okay.
So for whatever reason, there are so many producers, so many levels, and like the people we talk with are only like at the very, surface level of the water. There's so many higher ups, so you don't even know why that people make the decisions they make. The producers could be demographic, what the people want, but there were people I got really close to, and they would just randomly one day get sent home, and they don't even get to know why. It's kind of just Hollywood,
Wow.
Or there's like 80 contestants, and once the teams fill up, they're filled up. So once they're filled up, those people who didn't get to audition
Just
don't get to audition.
Wow.
So there was a lot of variation. So even if you're going there, you don't even know if you get to for sure get an audition. And even if you get an audition, you might not get televised. A lot of my friends got auditions and didn't actually get televised.
Okay.
So it's really like, feels like a huge blessing to even get there and then to get it televised.
Yeah.
And then to make it to the next round. It was all just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. So then, what was it like then? You prepped for a month to get ready for this moment, and I'm sure during that time, with all these different people that are being sent home for one reason or another, you're probably like a little bit like, am I even gonna make it there?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a typical thought, but I had no doubt in my mind that I knew I was going to go on stage and sing.
Okay.
I just kind of knew, and also that's just sort of like my mindset, just like unbridled confidence. But I knew, I didn't have a worry that I was going to. I was very confident in what I was doing, and my demographic also wasn't represented very largely.
Okay.
Because I know it is a reality show, and they're looking for different people to fill different audience demographics, basically,
Yeah.
and think that they would want. And I wasn't worried that I wouldn't get an audition. But I'm also don't like get myself worked up or really nervous. Like the reason we have so much preparation for that one little stage time is because 99% of the people who audition, they black out during their audition. Right when they walk on stage, they're gone.
Wow.
And they don't remember a thing afterward.
Okay.
And people will be like, oh, I'm not going to black out, whatever. And they do. And I was seriously like, I really don't think I'm going to black out. And I didn't, which... that's awesome, but I'm just very present, I guess, like, and especially with intensely overwhelming situations or like really big situations, it's like, what are you going to do? Are you either going to break under the pressure, or are you just going to step into it and be there? And it's like me talking to you. You could easily be John Legend right now. Like, he's just another human, So it's like, it's cool to see these people and sing in front of them, but at the end of the day, they're just humans as well. So, I don't know. The whole thing was just like going out and playing another show. It's obviously completely different, but I was never really nervous or anxious, and I was grateful for the entire experience. Even if I got sent home before the audition, it would have been okay. I mean, I'm glad I didn't, but...
So, going on stage then, I'm assuming when you're kind of looking at these, you come to the situation like... You've got, like, I hope I just make it, but then you also have, like, in an ideal situation, I would like to work with this coach or whatever. Mm-hmm. Did you have any of that prior to this when you went on stage? Were you like, I really hope this person turns around? Yeah,
so I was hoping Kelly would turn around. I didn't have any doubt that someone would turn around. This is also just me. I mean, you have to have confidence really to make it in this industry, and I've been doing it 27 years. So I knew someone would turn around, and I was hoping that Kelly would, because I felt kind of a, kinship with our style of music, our kind of personality. She's very, like, grounded, yet kind of, she's a little spitfire, and I like her voice. And she also came from a competition show. That's her fame came from American Idol.
Yeah.
So she's gone through that. So that's what my idea would have been, my preference would have been her. Which she did turn around, but not till the last, 0.5 seconds of the song. So right away, Nick Jonas turned around. So right away, then I'm on the show. So if somebody turns around, then you're on.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. He turned around and, like, much more attractive in person, I gotta say. He's just, like, smoldering at me, and I'm just singing. I'm singing into Nick Jonas's eyes right now. This is cool. This is very cool.
Well, it's crazy to try and keep your concentration at the, like, I imagine as soon as someone turns around, you're like, okay, just keep breathing, keep going.
Well, not even, because, like, before you go out, I had to put on kind of this energetic layer of just full-blown confidence, because literally otherwise you were going to crumble and, like, that blackout, start stuttering when they're talking to you, etc.
Yeah.
So I just, like, when he turned around, I was just, like, smoldering right back at him. He's staring at me. I'm playing right back at him. And it didn't shake anything, really. It was just, like, more of a wave of relief.
Yeah.
Because if nobody turned around, then I would be kind of, like, awkward.
Yeah.
Because then you're not on the show. Yeah. Yeah. So it didn't shake me at all. It was actually, it's kind of cool. And he had a lot of nice things to say. But then, at the very, very, very last, right before I ended my last note, Kelly turned around, and Nick didn't even notice because he thought he had me in the bag. So they kind of had to fight for me afterwards, which was nice. I felt bad for Nick, but sorry, Nick Jonas.
Well, that's awesome. And then as you're coming to that last bit, and you've just got Nick as a choice, which obviously is still a huge step forward, and you're watching, like, Kelly's chair, are you just like, do I hold this note, like, a little longer?
No, I mean, at that point, I just thought, okay, I'm on Nick's team, and I would have been totally fine with that, whoever's team I was on, really, and Nick would have been great. But it was, the camera captured it, too. Like, right when she turned around, I kind of did, like, a little jump for joy. Because that's who I wanted, but whoever's team I would have been on would have been great.
Yeah.
The whole experience, because really you don't actually work with that coach that much anyway.
Okay.
So. Yeah.
So tell us, what happens after that then? You get that, you get to decide who you go with. What happens next?
What does happen next? So then is the battle round. So once you get put on a team, then your coach, and this is actually done by them, pairs you with another person on your team to do a battle, quote unquote, but really it's like just a duet that you're singing with another person, and then they pick who duetted the best.
Okay.
Sort of a thing. So then after your blind audition, you fly home, and then you come back and they tell you your partner, your song you're doing, and it's kind of this whole reveal. They'll have you video yourself, like in the episode. They kind of, like with reality TV, kind of, now I see behind the curtain. So there's a lot of things that go into just these little blips.
Yeah.
So like we started doing all these long interviews and recording us talking in our hotel room, blah, 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 blah. So then they put it together. We come back for a whole month, which ended up being like close to 3 months because of COVID.
Okay.
So it was a plan to be just the normal 1 month prep for the thing.
Yeah.
But COVID kept pushing production because LA was shut down at the time, but I'm assuming because of the big money that the reality TV industry brings in, Hollywood and all that, they were actually allowed to stay open somehow, but production kept getting pushed, so we ended up being there like close to 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, working. So me and Corey Ward is who I did. I did Dreams, Fleetwood Mac, which was awesome.
Okay.
I was very excited to get that song choice because, yes, I don't even get to pick my songs.
Yeah.
Which I have an influence, but yeah, so then you practice your duet thing and same kind of deal. Then you go on stage, and the day we actually did our duet song, Kelly was sick, and we had pushed production so many times we couldn't push it again.
Yeah.
So they had to get a fill-in named Kelsey Ballerini, who I'd never heard of, but I know she's kind of big in the more country world.
Okay.
I think. So she was sat in for her. So Kelly wasn't there the day of my battle, but we performed it nonetheless. Kelly apparently called in. They're like texting to each other.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, that was the battle, and then they pick who won, which was not me, which surprised me, of course, because I'm my unbridled confidence. I came into it as like, of course I'm going through. I didn't even pack my bag, because if you didn't make it, then you literally leave like they take you right from Universal Studios back to the hotel. You pack your bags, you're gone like within 5 hours basically.
Wow.
It's all a very quick process, but did I even start packing? No, because I do not prepare to lose. But I did lose, but only for a second, because they have something called a save or a steal. So I still had the confidence that somebody would save me or steal me, which Kelly did use her save on me. So each coach has one save. So if they pick the other person, but they want to keep both, they can save one person. Then if you get saved, it puts you into something called the 4-way knockout. So each 4 coaches saved people go in a 4-way battle.
Okay.
So that is like the intro into the live seasons, basically. So it kind of gets confusing at this point, but because I was in the 4-way knockout, I was able to come back again and prep for live shows.
Okay.
So like the 4-way knockout was the intro into live. So basically, if I were to win the 4-way knockout, I would immediately go from those results into a live performance.
Okay.
So I had to prepare as if I was going to win.
So you had to do both, yeah.
Yeah. So even though I did not win the 4-way knockout, spoiler alert, I did prepare for it. So like if you go online, it is on Spotify and everything, which is still cool, because I was preparing to do Barracuda by heart.
Okay.
Which would have been extremely badass. Unfortunately, I didn't get to sing it live, but that's okay. I got to keep the outfit, and it's recorded online and all that. But yeah, so that was kind of that whole thing.
Yeah.
So like single, duet, into another solo performance, but it was against 4 people. And that one I did Black Hole Sun, which I gotta say, that was really fun to do that performance. It was kind of like, I knocked it out of the park personally.
Yeah.
I was like the highest like I had ever sang. The whole experience was really cool because it brought out different sides of me that I hadn't expressed or experienced before. Because you kind of have to like step up to the occasion. And I've never sang on a stage that big in front of people that big and influential. So you just, the things that it pushes you to be able to do is really cool.
Yeah.
And even since then I've grown, but I just remember during that song and with my vocal coach, and she's like, well, what if you tried this note? What if you tried this? I'm like, oh, I can't do that. She's like, just try it. And lo and behold, I could do it. And it was cool, just these people to help push you to new places. So I didn't care if I made it through. I didn't care if I even made it past the blind audition. So getting 3 or 4 songs out there was like incredible.
Yeah.
Because just the one, you have exposure of millions of people.
Right. Well, and you mentioned that you didn't work super closely with Kelly Clarkson then, right? As it kind of went through?
Yeah.
Did you have some sessions with her, though, during that time?
So with reality TV, kind of is what you see is what you get. And that's as much as I worked with her, basically, is what was shown on TV. And that was kind of staged largely. And I know without COVID, maybe there would have been more of that. But no, so behind the scenes, we actually had a lot of, like, we had vocal coaches, choreographers, wardrobe people. So we had actually people working behind the scenes that you don't know watching the show.
Right.
So I actually had some real coaches. Not that Kelly wasn't, because I know that it would have been more in person if it wasn't for COVID. But, like, maybe one band practice, she was there kind of on an iPad and Zoom. And was very helpful, like her suggestions, and she helped me pick some songs and stuff like that. But for the most part, the coaching was done from not
team.
her. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which was all very helpful as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. So what happened? So you come home from that experience, and that, I imagine, is a pretty, like, out of this world, like, experience of, like, you got to do this thing. Sometimes landing from those things is really difficult, and knowing what the next step is. So how did you kind of handle all of that?
Yeah, it was weird, because it was such a big experience, like, to go from, like, I'm kind of known in the community a little bit, like, some people know who I am, but then all of a sudden from one day to the next, like, millions of people knowing who you are, and especially everybody in the community and beyond, because then I'm blasted on the news stations. It was, like, overwhelming in a great way, people were so supportive, especially in our community. It was like just incredible, the amount of love and support. But at the same time, it was really kind of jarring. There's no way to like put words to it unless you've experienced it. And even then it's hard to put words to it. But from one moment to the next, like when my episode would air, I could just feel millions of people's attention on me. And like, it was just very interesting to go from that, then to come home, like the show being done. Everywhere I went, I was kind of like, people knew who I was. It was kind of just this interesting energy shift that I had to adjust to. I kind of went into like cocoon mode for a little while to like readjust.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know to feel out the next steps. Because that's like how I base my career, is like off of what I'm feeling. And with the level of exposure that I got, it added a lot to my reputation, which is kind of silly because it was like 9 minutes of TV, but it really helped in the way of like, I could get gigs a lot easier. Now things are coming to me, so it was like less of like me going and getting things, and then a lot of inward reflection of like, what do I want?
Yeah.
You know, where do I want to go from here? And so with that, I kind of just like took a break. So last summer was like my first summer. I've never really like gone to shows or listened to music. I'm always just making my own music or going and playing shows. But I kind of I wouldn't say I took a summer off because I still was really busy and played a lot, but I did kind of feel like I took the summer off to just enjoy my time and go and see. I have a lot of friends in the Skagit music community, and so going and supporting them and just having fun, really. I kind of needed some time to just reset, readjust, reassess.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I handled that until it kind of just blended back into life. Now I feel like it's kind of blown over into a nice medium place where it's still a part of me and my experience, but I kind of also like the grind of music, you know, where not everybody knows who I am, and I get to kind of, you know, still like earn my place and go get it. So now I'm kind of back in the place of, you know, playing full time, but it did boost my career up, and so it was super helpful. But cocoon phase was necessary.
Yes.
Yeah, just kind of having fun.
Nice. So that kind of brings us. What are you doing now? What are the things that you're focusing on? Where are you performing? What are the things that you're up to right now?
Well, so many things. So now, when The Voice started and finished, I kind of Waking Maya ended a little bit before that, just because I decided to just rebrand under Savanna Woods, because that's obviously a more known name, and everybody, Waking Maya was a hard name for people to get anyway, like spelling it, or on the reader boards it would be like Walking Mayo or something.
It's close.
Yeah, it's close enough. So I started rebranding as Camano Woods and just focusing. I mean, I have a ton of originals, and then alongside that, there was another big local band called Shaggy Sweet. Some people in our community might have seen them because a good friend of mine, Leonard Kelly, who is the prior mayor, he loved this band, and so you'd book him a lot for the city concert series and things. So I saw them one time, and I just loved them. They did a lot of songs I did, but I thought the one thing they're missing was a female singer. So anyway, the lead singer of this band ended up moving to LA, and they needed someone to cover for a gig. So Leo connected us. Fast forward, I am now their singer. We've rebranded as Eden, and that is my live performance band.
Okay.
And these boys, I just love them to death. We have the best personal and musical chemistry. So I primarily perform live with them because it's just super effortless, fun. They came with the booker. This summer we're going to be playing spring and summer, fall, a ton of big outdoor music festival things. What is it? Oh, EdenBand.org is our website. And
EdenBand.org.
Yeah,
okay,
so we
I'll
have
link to that in the show notes.
Perfect. And then mine is SavannahWoodsMusic.com, which also has both mine and Eden's show dates.
Okay.
So like a lot more locally, I will play with the Savanna Woods project. So at this point, I've got like a few things going. So then let's see, Savanna Woods Band. That will be a variation of lineups. A lot of times it has Mandy, which is my cellist / violinist. My pianist is Andrea, sometimes drums, bass, depending on the venue. like this weekend I'm playing like at the Conway Pub, so it'll just probably be me acoustic with some box drum or something. But on the bigger stages, I'll do full band. So more locally Savanna Woods, but for the bigger shows with Eden, which is more like rock pop blues, and I just had my first jazz practice last Sunday, so now I have another project. We haven't started performing yet. That's just beginning, but that's really cool too. I'm kind of just in a space where I'm just doing everything because I have like unlimited like momentum and motivation in this area, and I can't just have one project because I would drag them till their wheels fell off. I have to have all these things going because I'm just like a million miles a minute. As you can hear when I'm talking, I'm just like blah blah blah. So I have all these projects going. This spring summer is going to be awesome. With my Savanna Woods project, we are doing a lot of recording right now. We actually just put out an album, an EP, is what they would call it, because it's 6 songs. Let's see, maybe 2 months ago. It's called Home, because one of the songs is called Home, but also because I happen to write all these songs at home. A lot of my songs I write when I'm in my travels. My traveling ends up kind of being like a break from gigging, and I'll bring a guitar and do a lot of my writing on the road, and come back, bring it back to the band and everything. But these 6 songs, recorded all at home. Those are out now, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you listen to your music. But also physical CDs you can get for sale on my website or at shows. I also have another EP coming out next month, and that's the home EP is like full band.
Okay.
The one I'm putting out next month is acoustic, so me acoustic guitar with some slide guitar.
Okay.
Pretty cool. And then I'm recording another one right now to be put out in the fall, and that is just with me acoustic guitar with some cello and violin and piano. So it's just, they're all going to have different vibes. And then I have so much music. And then I have another one I'm putting out this summer. It's actually one that I've had up only on my Patreon that I recorded pre-COVID.
Okay.
Full band with my Waking Maya people. But I'm going to release an EP of that this summer. So I just have a ton of music ready to come out, honestly. So this year's going to be a big year for music. And Patreon, now that I mentioned Patreon, I'm going to slip this in here.
Yeah, for sure.
Patreon is like one of the ways that is really a big part of what helps me make music my career, basically. It's kind of like my insiders community. People pledge however much they want a month, cancel anytime. It's almost like a monthly tip. So people anywhere from like $1 to $1 million. But it's like a reoccurring thing. Then you're in my insiders community. So like my patrons get discount off merch. They've had an exclusive album on there, like this I Am the Sun album I'm releasing this summer. That's been on there for almost a year, and they were the only ones access to that. Or like they've already have a track off of my EP I'm releasing next month. It's kind of like just my insiders people.
Yeah.
And so that's super helpful with, making music my career. It takes some bills off the table.
Yeah.
They helped me get my little van, which is now my touring rig. So it's all things are very helpful, but Patreon is, so that's patreon.com/Savanna Woods.
Awesome. And we definitely have that in the show notes as well.
Awesome.
I think Patreon has done such a neat thing in allowing these new creators to not go from it, you don't have to go from 0 to 100. You can build your way to there.
Totally.
And you no longer have to be this, you don't have to like just make it and like live on nothing,
Exactly. It really, really helps.
Yeah.
It's a great tool. And it really does help to build up. It took me years to start it. People were like, you should start Patreon. And I was like thinking I need to just get all my ducks in a row, blah, blah, blah. So eventually I just decided to start it when COVID hit. And during the COVID time, it's great. I mean, I have 60-some patrons now, which is it's just so helpful and amazing. And now I have this awesome community of people, too. It's like a family. It feels like it's so nice. So I'm so thankful to Patreon, the platform, and all of the people who choose to support me in that way, because it's just like that next level. Like if you become a patron, it's like, it just touches my heart, because it's like they want to take that extra step
Yeah.
to support you.
Yeah.
Which is just so nice.
Very cool. Awesome. And before we started the podcast, you mentioned something about Wandering Wednesdays. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. Let's see, 4 years, maybe like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I was in Iceland and just had the idea, because I travel a lot, traveling and music, that's my life. And so I had the idea that the name just popped into my head, and the concept really just kind of like how songs come to me. They're just these little downloads just popped in my head. So I thought, okay, that's a great idea. So I did my first one in Iceland, or my first couple in Iceland, with my sister. She was there too. So every Wednesday, wherever I am, sometimes I'm at home, sometimes in another country or state, I put out a new video of me singing a different song. And it's as simple as that, which there's a lot of Wednesdays, it turns out. They just keep coming. So I think maybe I've missed one from being sick, and I had someone do it. But so I have a lot of songs out there with that. But then when COVID started, that turned into live stream concerts instead. So because I couldn't gig live in person.
Yeah.
So nowadays, either I'll do a live stream concert or just put out a video. Like today, I'll probably do a live stream concert, because it's fun. Even though you're just singing to a screen, you still feel somehow connected to the people.
Yeah.
You can really feel like when their energy pops in and they're watching and they're commenting, and it's like, oh, my family, and I'm like talking to them. Even though I'm just talking to myself on a screen, it still feels like this whole...
Yeah.
It's obviously nothing replaces real in-person live shows, but it was really good, especially for COVID times. So I built a lot of my community through that.
Yeah.
The live streams for Wandering Wednesday. But that's still going, and I don't foresee it ending. So I put those on my Instagram, my Facebook, sometimes YouTube. But all of those things are Savanna Woods Music for Instagram and Facebook. I'm probably most active on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions.
Oh, boy.
So the first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most in the last 3 months?
Oh my gosh. Okay. What have I purchased? Rapid fire. Maybe my dog's grooming session.
Okay.
I have the sweetest dog. She's my little partner in crime. Her name's Poppy. Every few months I got to get her groomed up, and she looks so cute. Just got her all groomed, ready for the road.
Nice.
She's a big golden doodle, so she gets pretty dirty, but we're heading to Arizona soon, so got her all groomed up and looking adorable and ready to hit the road again.
Nice. All right. Who is the most influential person in your life outside of your family?
Oh my. These are good questions. The most influential, that's difficult, but one of them, let's see, I'm wearing one on my shirt right now. Prince is super influential. And also, like, other Skagit artists, like my friend Jack Mattingly is a Skagit artist. He's very influential to me. A lot of my friends are, oh my gosh, rapid fire is hard. I can never just pick one answer.
That's fine. All right. This is a fill-in-the-blank question.
Okay.
I know this is weird, but I've always wanted to blank.
Ooh, I've always wanted to... go in a hot air balloon or own a grandfather clock. I'm like revisiting my younger years. I was always interested in really weird things. Like as a kid, all I wanted for Christmas one year was a grandfather clock for some reason.
Yeah?
And I had this phase of being like obsessed with hot air balloons. Ooh, okay, I know what the real answer is. It's hot air balloon related. I want to go to the hot air balloon festival in Turkey over this place called Cappadocia.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
I think I've seen pictures from it.
Pretty badass. It's like these natural rock formations that come out of the ground, and they build like their homes and things into it, but there's a hot air balloon festival over it, and I don't know what my draw is to hot air balloons, honestly. It's a strange thing. So that's, I guess, a good answer to that question.
All right, perfect. All right. Who is a fascinating or interesting person that I should interview next?
Ooh. Oh my. I know so many fascinating people. I think Leonard Kelly would be a good one because he's the old mayor of Stanwood. I love him. That's who I go stay with when I'm in Arizona.
Okay.
He's a good friend of mine.
Nice.
Maybe a Skagit musician. Chris Eager's pretty cool. He's another big local musician. Also, Richard Williams, he's a big community member. He has a little studio out in Stanwood. A lot of people know him if they do music. Trying to think of local Stanwood Camano people.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be local either. I've started interviewing people from Skagit and stuff like that as well.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I am a Stanwood person, but to me, in my mind, Stanwood's almost like in the Skagit region, even though it's not technically, but
right.
I would consider myself a valley girl.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a lot of similarities. Actually, when I was talking to Andrew Miller on a previous podcast, he's a big Skagitonian.
Okay.
And we were kind of talking about the similarities of Skagit and Camano and Stanwood and how they all, the way they kind of operate is all very, very similar.
Has a similar energy.
Yeah, versus like if you go to King County or Snohomish, like it's a very different feel.
Different feel for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't get south very much. I just like the feel of the country and the, country small town vibes, the Skagit. So yeah, I have a lot of Skagit people. I mean, I could give you lists.
Yes. All
I have
right.
lots of friends.
Perfect. All right, and lastly, what piece of advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh, good question. I would tell her to be yourself, be your authentic self. Don't feel the need to conform to society and do what maybe you feel is the right thing to do as a, quote, adult. Because I think a lot of people growing up, it's like there's sort of this mold you're given, like what you're supposed to do, kind of like go to college, then figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life, blah, 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 blah. But I think it's really important to just listen to your gut and your heart, and some people aren't made out for that. And just to be unapologetically your true self, and take those chances. They could be scary, but if you have a passion or a dream or even just an interest, follow that instead of maybe the way other people are suggesting that you live, because they're not you.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say is to my 20-year-old self, even though I kind of shortly after was given opportunities to follow that, but it took a while. So just be unapologetically yourself. Listen to your heart. To all 20-year-olds out there.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Savanna Woods for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other Islanders like yourself. And be sure to check out Savanna's new EP as well as her Patreon page. And those are linked again in the show notes below. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/podcast. That's CamanoCommons.com/podcast. Thanks for listening and see you next time.